The British royal family has all appeared for a brand new official portrait. As you can see, she is the sole vibrant element in this image. Look closely at her tiara, though. For a long time, royal fashion has served as a quiet rivalry, symbolism, and language of power. And nowhere is that more evident than in the odd times when Queen Camilla seemed to emulate Catherine, Princess of Wales's carefree elegance. Every public appearance prompted comparisons that royal observers could not help but notice, from nearly identical coat skirts to remarkably similar hats and jewelry. However, Camilla's echoes frequently attracted criticism, memes, and unrelenting examination, whilst Catherine's composure enthralled people. Were these random events well-thought-out decisions, or a covert struggle for control of the royal image today? 15. The wardrobe of diplomats. Catherine's ability to use diplomatic manner has long been acknowledged. She chooses more than just lovely attire, she picks them carefully. She frequently chooses designers from the countries she is visiting, wears the colors of her hosts, and carefully incorporates jewelry with cultural or historical importance when she travels abroad. Every decision is nuanced yet purposeful, conveying a subliminal message of attentiveness, respect, and careful planning. This tactic eventually turned into one of Catherine's defining characteristics, a fusion of style, knowledge, and impact that goes beyond fashion. It appears that Camilla used the same diplomatic strategy for the first time when she appeared on a comparable stage months later. The emphasis on strictly traditional British fashion was vanished. Rather, she adopted regional hues, showcased international designers, and even tried out new accessories in ways that echoed Catherine's well-chosen selections. The change was immediately apparent to onlookers. Journalists, fashion analysts, and royal watchers all started contrasting the two strategies, not in terms of prestige or rank, but rather in terms of public opinion and subtle influence. There has never been a word from the palace. However, there was a lot of conversation on social media and in publications. Comparisons between royals were no longer limited to those with greater positions for the first time. They focused on impact, flair, and the unsaid force of individual influence. And then, very subtly, a question started to surface. Not only was Catherine setting the standard for style, but she was also quietly changing the expectations of what it meant to be a modern royal. The response might disclose far more than just a fashion preference. Camilla has frequently come under fire for embracing a style that doesn't feel true to her, but Catherine has received widespread praise for her fashion choices. What else, though, has Catherine excelled at? Where has Camilla found it difficult to stay up? Let's investigate. 14. The Battle of Royal Motherhood. The Princess of Wales, Catherine, subtly changed what it means to be a contemporary royal mother. She made parenting more well-known than any other royal had ever done. Sports days, school runs, and direct contact with her kids ceased to be private affairs. They turned into a crucial component of her public persona. Photographs of her supporting Charlotte from the sidelines, hugging Louis close on outings, or assisting George with his homework didn't only depict her family life. They quietly reaffirmed her reputation as relatable, caring, and approachable. By combining tradition with true warmth and genuineness, Catherine changed the public's perception of royal motherhood. A few months later, Camilla's appearances started to show a similar emphasis on family and kids. Suddenly, she was spotted visiting literacy programs, interacting with young children in ways that attracted attention, and participating in carefully scripted moments with her grandkids. Her image was softer and more friendly than previously, according to observers who noticed the change. The time was not overlooked, despite the comparable optics. It happened after Catherine had already earned a name for herself as the royal mother who made kid-related activities a focal point of her image, setting a standard that was both noticeable and unforgettable. The contrast was obvious to viewers. 4. Catherine developed children's activities around her sincere enthusiasm for early childhood engagement, rather than only taking part in them. Although sincere, Camilla's participation seemed reactive, thoughtfully designed to resemble a picture Catherine had already mastered. The public started to realize that timing, authenticity, and regular engagement are just as important as presence in this subtle fight for influence. Beyond style, Catherine is reinventing royal parenting in a manner Camilla has found difficult to emulate. In what way does she portray her family? Is it simply a well-known public image, or does she present them in a way that makes her stand out and garner praise? Let's examine the startling specifics. 13. The War of the Family Photographs. In a subtle way, Catherine transformed the royal family picture style. She started posting casual, self-taken photos of herself that showed genuine events, organic conversations, and spontaneous gestures. Louis exploring the yard, Charlotte holding her mother's hand, and George laughing at a playground. These pictures gave the public a unique look into the personal lives of a contemporary royal family and felt intimate, accessible, and real. The reaction was instantaneous. Social media took off. The images were shared by news organizations around the world, and viewers commended Catherine for her warmth, genuineness, and approachability, while retaining the dignity of a king. The photographs were more than just photos. Her own brand was strengthened by the thoughtfully chosen narratives. Soon after, the palace started publishing more informal pictures of Camilla in her home, in reading nooks, in lush gardens, and in comfortable private spaces. The rigid, formal portraits that were usually connected to the elder royal generation were no longer present. And it was a modest but noticeable change. The monarchy itself was starting to evolve, adopting relatability and honesty as a component of its public persona. But the message was apparent to the audience. The movement was initiated by Catherine, who showed that authentic, carefree family interactions could enthrall the globe without sacrificing custom. Even if Camilla's photos were pleasing, comparisons were inevitable. The impact, style, and timing all brought attention to a straightforward reality. It was impossible to replicate the skill of establishing a genuine connection with the public. Catherine was the one who had invented and refined it. Could Camilla at least match Catherine's social advocacy if she couldn't establish a distinctive family image? Let's now examine how Camilla attempted to emulate the standards set by Catherine's early childhood plan. Number 12. The Philanthropic Imitator. Catherine wasn't limited to going to charity functions. She turned them into worthwhile projects that demonstrated sincere compassion and support. She went from being a ceremonial princess to an active social campaigner, because to her early childhood development program. Catherine threw herself into the effort, collaborating with scholars and child development specialists, ordering surveys, and serving on study panels. She backed every speech, every event, and every report with the weight of knowledge, not simply appearances. The initiative became a defining feature of her royal persona, showcasing the power of intense involvement and genuine passion to sway public opinion, impact legislative debates, and spur significant change. Soon after, Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall, started focusing on her literacy campaign in a way that was more methodical and grounded in research than in years past. Formally produced papers, expert panels, and academic partnerships became essential components of her public appearances. Even though the causes were different, one focused on reading, the other on early childhood, the presentation style suddenly had a lot in common with Catherine's methodical strategy. The similarity was immediately apparent to royal pundits and audiences. Subtle doubts concerning originality and influence were raised when Camilla's portfolio included the polished, data-driven presentation that had previously only been used by Catherine's campaigning. There was no mistaking the change. The strategy, the methodical delivery, the dependence on research, and the expert-backed conclusions appeared more and more familiar, even though the cause's core ideas were distinct. While Camilla's efforts may be sincere, they frequently appear to follow the model set by the Princess of Wales, who set a new bar for royal philanthropic work with Catherine. Does Camilla, however, evoke the same spontaneous, emotional response in the public as Catherine? Let's investigate. 11. The Public Affection Approach. As a member of the royal family, Catherine redefined what it meant to have a personal connection. Her physical warmth, a subdued yet potent element of her public persona, made her instantly identifiable. She was frequently photographed by royal observers and photographers kneeling to greet youngsters at eye level, shaking hands with real interest, or reacting impulsively to the feelings and responses of those she encountered. These minor motions weren't predetermined. They created an intimacy that had rarely been connected to royalty because they were genuine, humanizing, and immediately relevant. In contrast, Camilla had always taken a more formal and aloof stance. Although her interactions were appropriate, kind, and respectful, They lacked the warmth and immediateness that Catherine's presence offered. Subsequently, onlookers started to notice little changes. Camilla's interactions grew more physical. The duration of handshakes was somewhat extended. Her posture and gestures indicated a greater attempt to connect, and gentle touches on her arms or shoulders became more often. Discussions felt less scripted, more casual, and more intimate. This was characterized by royal observers as a progressive softening of her manner and a natural maturation in her public presence. Catherine was the epitome of genuine connection and physical approachability. Furthermore, whether on purpose or not, Camilla's modifications reflected the friendliness and human connection that Catherine has long made her trademark. However, what is the public's perception of both women's interpersonal skills? Let's examine the specifics. 10. The relatable persona of royalty. The art of relatability was subtly perfected by Catherine, Princess of Wales. She demonstrated to the world that nobility might be personable without sacrificing their honor. She made daily life seem straightforward yet sophisticated by choosing inexpensive versions of her signature looks and casually stopping by groceries. Her kind, approachable, and sincere remarks to the public supported the perception of a queen who was calm and connected. She was not merely admired. They perceived her as a relatable individual who embodied grace while being grounded in the everyday. Observers saw a minor change in Camilla's public image a few months later. News outlets started praising her daily routines, favorite TV series, reading hobbies, and even comfort food preferences. She appeared to soften the distance she had previously maintained from everyday life. In an attempt to reconcile formal royal expectations with personal accessibility, she shared glimpses of herself in ways that reflected Catherine's approachable style. In the past, the monarchy flourished on a sense of untouchable elegance, mystique, and meticulously manicured appearances. However, things were shifting. Warmth, familiarity, and a sense of connection were increasingly valued by the public. Catherine demonstrated how relatability may increase a royal's power and garner public support. But Camilla seemed to be going in a direction that the Princess of Wales had already established. What other aspects of Catherine has Camilla attempted to mimic? Let's now examine the Princess of Wales's famous fashion moment. The outfit repetition revolution comes in at number 9. By demonstrating that recurring ensembles could be both fashionable and significant, Catherine subtly revolutionized royal dress. Senior royals were supposed to wear entirely different outfits for each public appearance for decades, a regulation that upheld the monarchy's majesty and mystique. With a hint of confidence, Catherine questioned that assumption. She would repeatedly don a dress, coat, or suit, varying the accessories or styling adjustments to create a new look each time. This was not a lazy act of repetition. It was deliberate. She conveyed grace, awareness, and a reverence for sustainability in this way. Audiences and fashion reviewers saw that her frequent attire didn't diminish her effect long before eco-conscious fashion became a worldwide fad. They reaffirmed it. Her use of repetition became a defining characteristic of her style, a subliminal declaration that style need not be disposable to be appreciated. The Duchess of Cornwall, Camilla, soon adopted a similar tactic. She began wearing her old clothes again during important royal events, frequently ones that royal observers recognized right away. Once critical of outfit repeats, the public and media now praised the strategy. In royal circles, what had previously seemed strange or out of the ordinary had become celebrated. In addition to setting the trend, Catherine demonstrated how recurring ensembles might successfully combine style, functionality, and genuineness to create an enduring impression. Camilla started wearing familiar outfits in public at important events when Catherine made it trendy to do so. However, how does Catherine handle diplomatic situations? Let's now examine how royal diplomacy was reinvented by the Princess of Wales. Soft power diplomacy comes in at number 8. Catherine changed the royal family's attitude toward foreign travel. She placed more emphasis on real emotional connection, spending time with children, interacting with local communities, and taking part in passionate and impromptu shared cultural experiences than on formal ceremonial appearances or formality. Every connection, from classroom reading corners to intimate community get-togethers, was meticulously planned yet incredibly genuine. making a deep impression on viewers and hosts alike. Her strategy, which combined history with approachable humanity, quietly changed ideas about what royal diplomacy could entail. Within a few months, Camilla's attitude about foreign visits started to change dramatically. Her trips began to feel more intimate and interesting after being all about rigid schedules, ceremonial handshakes, and formal appearances. She stopped to talk to residents, told moving tales, and spent more time in various towns, paying attention. Every interaction felt natural, the smiles more sincere, and the handshakes warmer. Her presence became notably more approachable and human, formality eased into warmth, and distance gave way to intimacy. Royal experts characterized it as a development in royal diplomacy, pointing out that Camilla appeared to be incorporating aspects of Catherine's strategy without achieving the same level of natural sincerity. The change was evident to audiences. Although the monarchy was modernizing, Catherine had already subtly established the model, and the difference between the two strategies only served to emphasize her groundbreaking role. Camilla followed in Catherine's footsteps as she handled international engagements with skill. However, how does Catherine handle communication while the media is closely watching her? Let's now examine how the Princess of Wales developed her ability to communicate subtly and effectively. The media handling technique comes up at number 7. Catherine's ability to convey a lot without saying too much has always been extraordinary. She chooses each statement carefully. Every public appearance is carefully crafted to exude authority, empathy, or confidence without requiring a never-ending supply of justifications. Her hallmark communication style included minimal interviews, deliberate pauses, and powerful visual clues, ranging from a simple hand gesture to a well-timed smile. She proved that quiet, when employed skillfully, can become a potent statement in and of itself, and that restraint may increase effect. It was immediately apparent to onlookers that every look, every move, and every expression seemed intentional, fostering an air of elegance and genuineness that struck a chord with viewers around. A few months later, Camilla's perspective on media gradually changed, demonstrating a similar realization. Her once casual comments were increasingly infrequent and purposeful. Public remarks were carefully chosen, and appearances focused on well-crafted imagery and subdued language. The difference was obvious. What could have appeared to be standard procedure was now an attempt to speak with subdued authority. Commentators and royal analysts were unable to ignore the parallel to Catherine's strategy. It seems that silence had evolved into a calculated tactic for influencing perception, and Catherine had already demonstrated its remarkable potency. Her grasp of nuance established the norm in a society where oversharing is common, and others, including those with decades of experience, had to catch up. It is well known that Catherine rarely speaks to the media. Nevertheless, she uses language to express strong ideas. How does she convey meaning and impact through clothing and accessories? Let's now explore the ways in which the Princess of Wales transformed accessories into statements. 6th, jewelry as a royal language. Royal jewelry was changed by Catherine from being merely ornamental to becoming a subtly influential language. In homage to her mother-in-law, Diana's legacy, each item she wore had a backstory. A nod to national icons, or a thoughtfully selected piece of jewelry that recognized a subject she believed in. Her brooches, necklaces, and earrings weren't just any old pieces. They were declarations that were interwoven with public participation and diplomacy. The messages hidden behind the shimmer were deciphered by observers. It was understated power, elegance with intention. Camilla's style soon started to change in ways that were visually striking. She started choosing jewelry with more meaning than just wearing conventional or family heirloom pieces. Things that honored causes related to the events she attended, showcased charitable endeavors, or promoted regional customs. Every decision she made appeared purposeful, with a subliminal message weaved into her look. It was clear that Catherine had an impact. Previously used primarily as ornamentation, jewelry now communicated meaning, consciousness, and connection. Royal observers took great notice of the timing. The concept was first proposed by Catherine, who established the norm for how jewels may convey a royal's message without using words. Camilla's use of such tactics hinted at something more than chance. The press analyzed necklaces and brooches as though they were news stories, but the palace hardly ever made any comments. Glistening adornment has given way to jewelry as a means of communication and connection. Catherine took the lead in this silent, glittering revolution, and Camilla followed after, learning to let her accessories do the talking. Frequently, Catherine's jewelry speaks louder than words ever could. However, what other distinguishing feature best describes the Princess of Wales? Let's examine the noteworthy specifics. The charity focus model is number 5. Catherine has long realized that concentrating on a small number of issues is more effective than spreading yourself too thin. She spent years attending research panels, commissioning studies, and gaining actual knowledge in the fields of early childhood development, mental health, and the arts. She was able to speak authoritatively and credibly on topics she genuinely cared about because of her methodical, careful, and persistent approach. Camilla, on the other hand, has supported many groups and been active in a variety of issues. Even while she always had good intentions, she rarely gave any one mission her full attention. Despite her good intentions, she struggled to establish a lasting individual legacy in one field because her efforts were dispersed across numerous fronts. Rather than depth, she gained notoriety for her breadth. A good-hearted person who touches many but only completely connects with a select few. Then, a tiny change started. Camilla's public focus gradually shifted to literacy initiatives, child welfare, and raising awareness of domestic abuse. These issues became her signature subjects with expert panels, more organized events, and focused messaging. The change was noticed by observers. Observing similarities to Catherine's approach, which prioritizes depth over breadth, the distinction was obvious. Catherine has previously shown that focusing on a small number of important topics fosters recognition, trust, and genuine influence. That strategy seems to be the inspiration for Camilla's change of direction, which acknowledged the value of consistent, targeted involvement. True influence in the realm of royal patronage is determined by authority, dedication, and a capacity to bring about long-lasting change rather than by quantity. Catherine had quietly perfected these lessons. By focusing on a few charity projects, Catherine was able to attain excellence. However, did the most discerning viewers criticize her attempts, or did they actually resonate with newer generations? Let's now explore Catherine's remarkable appeal to young people. 4th place, the Youth Appeal Plan. Catherine soon established herself as somebody that younger generations could identify with and look up to. She realized that engaging with contemporary audiences was essential to the monarchy's continued relevance. She attracted the interest of both young adults and students with her well-curated social media posts, captivating videos, and appearances at colleges and universities. Every visit, every talk, and even the subjects she chose to cover reflected current concerns that young people cared about, such as digital literacy, mental health, and environmental awareness. Her presence bridged the gap between history and modernity, feeling both friendly and regal. The palace soon began to display Camilla's attempts to engage the younger generation. Her youth-focused programs, reading campaigns, and school visits attracted notice, with the media emphasizing her sincere discussions with pupils and her deep curiosity about the contemporary issues they confront. This increased prominence marked a subtle but significant shift in royal strategy, with the monarchy looking to the future and embracing new avenues for public engagement while carefully expanding upon the framework Catherine had laid. The manner and timing were remarked by onlookers. Camilla's endeavors were not entirely novel. They reflected the pattern Catherine had managed to devise. Although both royals were dedicated to serving the people, Catherine had an advantage in winning over the hearts of the following generation because of her genuineness and early adoption. Despite having good intentions, Camilla's change seemed to have been influenced by a model that had already been shown to appeal to young audiences. Through student involvement, contemporary topics, and social media buzz, Catherine developed close relationships with younger generations. Younger generations. However, how can she keep this power while presenting herself in public? Let's investigate. The third is the prepared public image. The Princess of Wales, Catherine, gained notoriety for her extraordinary poise in the face of criticism. She was an expert at exercising restraint, whether she was handling sensitive royal issues, public scrutiny, or media rumors. Catherine allowed time to work without making defensive remarks or responding rashly. Few things could compare to the confidence, maturity, and sense of control she exuded through her quiet. Observers saw how this strategy reduced tension, gradually swung the story in her favor, and strengthened her reputation as a composed, collected, and unflappable queen. Months later, when under public scrutiny, Camilla appeared to adopt a new strategic strategy. She used to react quickly, but she has since learned to be patient and fight the impulse to defend herself right away. Her public appearances felt controlled and intentional, interviews were well prepared, and press comments became less frequent. Even while detractors persisted in raising questions, her calm, collected approach started to alter public perceptions of her, turning her from a reactive character into one who was composed, poised, and slightly in control of her story. Although Catherine had introduced this strategy with understated grace, Camilla's adoption implied that restraint had evolved into the contemporary instrument of royal power. The ability to say little and let timing, poise, and actions speak for you proved to be extremely beneficial in a world that is fascinated with quick reactions and viral opinion. Immediately, observers noticed the influence. Emptiness was no longer silence. It was a plan. Is Catherine supportive of her husband in addition to avoiding public mockery by maintaining her composure in the face of controversy? How do she and he get along? Let's examine the specifics. The air support duty comes in at number 2. Catherine has long been renowned for her ability to subtly but effectively align herself with the future monarch. She keeps a noticeable and powerful presence at public gatherings, official engagements, and ceremonial events, yet she never overshadows Prince William. Every gesture, forward motion, and outward appearance is well balanced, encouraging, graceful, and unquestionably successful. Her strategy, according to observers, establishes a distinct hierarchy without calling attention to it, enabling the public to view the pair as a cohesive one. While being aware of who bears the burden of the Constitution, it serves as a model for royal collaboration and teaches subtle influence while simultaneously conveying protocol, unity, and respect. Following Catherine's paradigm of measured visibility, Camilla started to modify her own public persona in the months that followed. She took a more backstage role at important events involving King Charles to keep the monarch front and center. Her reverence became apparent to royal observers whether she was on international trips, charitable visits, or engagements. It was a subtle but clear plan. There was now a hierarchy of visibility. Insiders knew that Catherine had already shown how to command presence without vying for attention, even though Camilla's adaptation would seem fortuitous to the untrained eye. The lesson is that influence in the royal family frequently stems from knowing when to take the lead and when to back off, a skill Catherine mastered long before anyone else did. Catherine never overshadows her spouse and always comes out as a helpful partner. But is she really ready to take on the role of future queen? And what does she do that Camilla hasn't been able to precisely imitate? Let's examine the specifics. First place, forming the monarchy. The Princess of Wales, Catherine, didn't enter the royal life with the expectation that her reputation would speak for itself. She skillfully created a lasting presence characterized by kindness, professionalism, stability, and a vision of a contemporary monarchy that was both respectable and approachable. Every action, gesture, and thoughtful interaction added to a more comprehensive and unified identity that the general public might respect and trust. This nurtured genuineness eventually turned into her trademark. Effortless yet deliberate, majestic yet relatable. Initially taking a more conventional approach, Camilla gradually started to change the way she presented herself in public. She began to emphasize warmth, approachability, and emotional accessibility in her appearances and engagements, mirroring Catherine's approach. Officially, there was no rivalry. The attempted imitation was not overt, but there was no denying the influence. The subtle ways in which Camilla's behavior, engagement decisions, and even media interactions appear to mirror the model Catherine had previously established years prior were observed by observers. A fascinating dynamic within the monarchy is highlighted by this evolution. And not all change originates at the highest levels, it frequently trickles down, motivated more by example than by decree. Others, including those in different family branches, started to unconsciously or consciously adopt the model that Catherine's methodical modernization of royal behavior established. Essentially, the monarchy changes not only as a result of formal reform or policy, but also as a result of the silent but significant influence of people who reinterpret what it means to be a royal in the contemporary world. Catherine demonstrated how an example can affect perception and occasionally have a greater impact than one might anticipate. What are your thoughts on Camilla's attempt to mimic Catherine? Would she ever be able to match her grace, charisma, and genuine personality? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. Remember to subscribe and like.